This is Bishop Dale Bronner. Thank you so much for joining our YouTube channel today. If this is a blessing to you, I want to encourage you to like it and then click the subscribe button and then turn on notification. Hit that little notification bell so that you never ever miss another one of our videos. And then if you're in the Metro Atlanta area on a Sunday, check out one of our exhilarating services at 8:30 a.m., 11 a.m., or 6 o'clock p.m. What a blessing. We don't do this journey alone in our own strength. And it takes a heap of living in a house in order to make it a home. You can't do this thing overnight. It's something that comes over time. Our text today is coming from Judges chapter 4, verse 17 through 21. The New Living Translation. Notice these words. Meanwhile, Sisera ran to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because Heber's family was on friendly terms with King Jabin of Hazor. And Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come into my tent, sir. Come in, don't be afraid." And so he went into her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. "Please give me some water," he said. "I'm thirsty." So she gave him some milk from a leather bag and covered him again. "Stand at the door of the tent," he told her. "If anybody comes in and asks you if there's anyone here, say no." But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him with a hammer and a tent peg in her hand. And then she drove the tent peg through his temple and into the ground, and so he died. Speaking today simply from the subject, nail it. Nail it, nail it, nail it. When somebody nails something, it means that they got it exactly right. You know, like what Major just did, he just nailed the song. You nail something, you get it exactly right, you say it exactly right, you do it exactly right, you nailed it. When somebody did it exactly the way that they were supposed to do it, that means you nailed it. And Jael was an instrument in the hand of God, and God used her to nail something. But we learned something from her that becomes a lesson to us all. Never just read the Bible as a history book. This is a life book. It's an instruction book. It's a manual for how we have to live, because there are enemies all around us. And the family is a part of God's army. It is the foundation out of which he builds his army. He builds it one soldier at a time in a family. The family is the most base unit of society. And so God is trying to build a family. More than anything else, God wanted a family in the earth. That's why in the church we refer to one another as brothers and sisters, because God wanted a family. And he is Father God. He's Father God. And so we reverence him as Father God, who loved us enough and realized that when man was just here alone, Adam alone, he said, "It is not good that the man should be alone." Everything else that God had done, everything that God had created, he said, "It's good. This is good. That's good. This is good." But the first time that God said something was not good, he said that the man should be alone. And God made him somebody that was suitable, compatible, somebody that was fitted for him, that had a temperament and a grace designed to help make him more than what he was alone. And so he made woman. And this became a prophetic picture from us. If you will notice in scriptures in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15, "And I will cause hostility," this is after Adam and Eve had sinned, "I'll cause hostility between you and the woman," speaking to the serpent, "and between your offspring and her offspring, and he will strike your head and you will strike his heel." This is the Lord pronouncing the judgment on the serpent for his role in what he has done in dealing with Adam and Eve. And so now the pronouncement of judgment comes upon him. And he says, "Listen, Satan, between your offspring, your little demons, your little imps, I'm going to put enmity between your seed and between the seed of the woman." This was prophetic of Jesus. And he was saying, you're going to strike his heel, but he's going to strike your head. He's going to crush your head. And Jesus became the ultimate head crusher. But Yael here, this woman, takes a tent peg and a hammer and nails the enemy. She's given us a sign of what you ought to do every time that something is coming to destroy your community. Anytime that something is coming after your family. She's telling us, you know why? Because love protects. Love protects. If you love somebody, you protect them. I meant mothers somehow to protect their children can gain supernatural strength and lift up an automobile if their child is stuck up under them. Even if they were afraid of a system, afraid of a human being, somehow that fear dissipates and courage rises if it's about her child. I've watched women allow you to talk about them. They'll let you say anything about them, talk about their weight, talk about their hair, their complexion, all kinds of things. They'll let you talk about them, but don't you make fun of my child. If you bully that child, you've just bullied that mama. That mama will come up to that place with rollers in her hair, house shoes on. She will come up there and let you know in a minute, don't mess with my child. They'll let things slide about themselves, but don't let this happen to my child. They are protective over their children because love protects. Love is a protecting element. When you love somebody, you do what you can to protect them. And this was what Yael, this woman, was doing, trying to protect a community, even though she wasn't from that community, but she loved somehow the Israelites. She was a Gentile woman who happened to be married to a Canaanite man that was friends with King Jabin, an arch enemy of Israel. And she helped the Israelites by luring this man into her tent and capturing the captain of their army, of the enemy, and put him to sleep. That's what mamas do. They put babies to sleep. And she sneaked up on him and lured him in and hammered him. This was not just an arbitrary picture of what happened. This is prophetic. You'll notice in Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 29, is not my word like a fire, says the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks in the rock in pieces? My word is a hammer. My word is a hammer. My word is a hammer. Listen, there's an announcement, church. It's hammer time. There's some things that you need to take the hammer of the word, and it means that you don't just hit it one time. You got to confess it over and 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 over again, because it's hammer time. It's hammer time. You got to place that tent peg and strike it with the hammer of the word. With his stripes I'm healed. Every time that a negative thought comes into your head, put the peg there and drive the hammer. When somebody tells you that you're not anything and that you're going to have another relapse, put the hammer up there to it. With his stripes I'm healed. I shall live and not die. You know, I am a new creation in Christ Jesus. I'm the head and not the tail, above only and not beneath. You know, the moment that he starts telling you you're not worthy, nobody's going to pick you, nobody's going to want you, you're not going to ever get married, you're not going to do this, you won't succeed if you have a business. No, I can do all things through Christ. You know, you begin to take the hammer. Don't just say it one time. Hammer it in. Hammer it in. Hammer it in. Hammer it in to your children, your sons and your daughters. Baby, you can be whatever it is that you want to be. Whatever that God has designed you to be, that's what you can be. You are not a loser. You're not slow. You're not challenged. Begin to speak. You're not a statistic. You are not on the spectrum. You have to begin to say, hey, whatever you set your mind to, whatever you set your heart to, whatever you begin to pray and ask God for, God says, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. Why in the world would you let the devil put a label on your child? Mothers, hammer that word in. Hammer the word. Hammer the word. Hammer the word. We're in a wartime now, and the family is under attack. And mama cannot be out of service. I know that mamas wear so many hats, and sometimes you get tired of cooking and you have to let them know the kitchen is closed. But you can't ever take off the protecting hat, because a mother is always thinking about her children. And even when they get off of your lap, they're on your heart. Even when you move out of their house and keep in your own house, mama's still thinking about her children. It's hammer time. It's hammer time. It's time now that if the daddy doesn't know how to call on the Lord and stand and be that defender over his family, mama got to step in as an intercessor. And she's got to become the prophetess and the priestess in that home and begin to decree and to declare. And she's got to plead the blood. And she's got to begin to pray and lay them on the altar of Jesus. My God, I'm just telling you, I cannot tell you, listen, you don't understand, ladies, how desperate that we are when we are alone. We are in a bad condition, and God says it's not good that the man should be alone. And I don't know about you, but over the years, as I have counseled men that have gone through terrible times, when they have been hooked up on drugs and under the addictions of other kinds of compulsive behaviors, when they finally get out, there are two people that they generally think, their mama and their wife. They were praying women that wouldn't give up on them, that loved them in spite of them, that loved them when they were lying to them, that loved them when they wouldn't be faithful, that loved them when they wouldn't come home on time. And they loved them and prayed and believed God and kept them on the altar until God did a work and transformed their lives. Ladies, let me just tell you, I cannot tell you the kind of feeling that comes over and rushes over a woman when she didn't give up too quickly. But when she took her hammer and began to nail in, because we give up because a thought enters into our head that says he ain't gonna never do right. A thought that enters in that says that you ought to just go in and just put him out and just never ever let him back. But somehow when God has given an assignment, there are certain people that God has assigned to your life and has given them a grace for your foolishness until divine deliverance comes from God. I'm just telling you, there's a gratitude in the hearts of folks who had praying mamas that wouldn't give up on them. I sat on the jury once, a man who's accused of double murder. And my heart was broken, not for the man who did it, who happened to be a minister, but when his mother took the witness stand and looked over at her son and said, "That's my baby." And she looked at me, and I wanted to say, "Sweetheart, there are two other people that your baby killed their baby. Now what do we do now?" But though her son was guilty of double murder, she said, "That's my baby. That's my baby, and he'll always be my baby." She still wouldn't give up on him. She wouldn't give up on him because that was her baby. It's amazing. That's why I said the love of a mother is so similar to the agape love of God. Though her son was guilty of murder, she still loved him. She loved a son that she couldn't trust, but she loved him. She loved him. And of course, we sentence him to double murder, so she has to love him from a distance. I did that out of love for the mothers who lost their children. And it is amazing that when God says that his word is like a hammer, we've got to use it not to damage the people that we're supposed to love, but to protect. The tools that God gives us, tools are designed to build and to protect, not to destroy. And so my question to you, though, is what is it that you need to nail that's trying to destroy your family? What thought is it that you need to put a nail in and hammer it? What is it that you need to stop from bringing your community down, the school down, the government down, the business down? What is it that you need to take your hammer to be able to protect what you love? You see this woman, Yael, before Yael nails Sisera, she plays a maternal role for him. She actually acts as though she is a surrogate mother for him. Notice what she did. She promises him that no harm would come to him. It's okay, come right in, come right in. Then she covers him so that no one would see him if they came in. She covered him with a rug or a blanket. And then when he asked for water, but she actually gave him milk. That's what a mother does. She gives milk to comfort and sort of to lull to sleep. He was already exhausted. She gave him milk. He asked for water. She gave him milk to lull him to sleep. And then she tucks him in. This is a maternal role of what Jael did to bring down Sisera, the enemy of Israel. It is interesting that the name Sisera means like a horse or a swallow. A swallow is a really fast bird. The horse speaks of human strength. And the swallow is that is too swift to be incarcerated, to be hemmed up or to be imprisoned because it's so fast. Thoughts are just like that. They're here and then they can flip and change just like that in one moment. And so it's nailing that which you can't normally catch. And it is destroying the human strength so that we'll have to depend on the strength that comes from God. This is the power of the hammer. So it is amazing how God oftentimes in history, he used women to do things that men traditionally did. He used an anonymous woman, we don't know her name, and it is a sign though, whenever you find an anonymous woman in scripture, she's oftentimes a picture of the church. The bride of Christ. She's a picture of the church. And her name is not important because it's the type that she represents. And there was an arch enemy of Israel. His name was Abimelech, and he seized the throne and he actually put to death 70 of his siblings so that they would never challenge his rule. And there he was down below her, and this anonymous woman took a rock and dropped it on his head and killed him. Here's another woman who dropped something on the head. She smashed it from the head. She dealt with it in the thought life. How victorious would our personal lives be and would our families be if we would stop stuff in the head? If you stopped it while it's a thought in the head, while it's an imagination in the head, while it's an impulse in the head, while it's an emotion in the head, if you stop it in the head, they nailed it in the head. And here they actually became that took possession of something and dropped a rock on it. The rock was a picture of Jesus. It's a picture of Jesus. Jesus is that rock. He was that rock that followed them in the wilderness. It was a rock that when you spoke to it, out of it came water. The water speaks of a flow of the Spirit of God. So there are some things that when she dropped it, here's another picture. In one place, it's a hammer. In another place, it's a rock that is a shelter. It is a rock that brings water, a flow of the Spirit out of. It's amazing. And then David, the giant killer, took a slingshot, and he had 5 smooth stones. He took one stone and released that. It went right in the giant's forehead, lodged in his forehead, knocked him out cold. He fell on the ground. And then David came and took the man's own sword and cut his head off. This is about stopping stuff that gets in your head, messing your head up. My God, have we ever seen so many of our children dealing with bipolar disorder, dealing with schizophrenia, manic depression? I mean, we have an epidemic right now of mental illness and mentally ill people walking our streets. It's a problem in the head. There's a problem in the head. It's time to get the hammer. It's time to get the hammer and hammer some things out so that we can live, so that they come into a picture and an identity and an understanding as to who they actually are. And then it's interesting that much of this happened because during the time God, he didn't call women to just naturally have an impulse to be able to go out and drive tent pegs into people's head and drop rocks and smash a person's skull. That could give a woman a nightmare. That's traumatic. He didn't design women for that kind of operation, but when God needs to get something done, and if the men are acting like cowards, he'll raise up a woman, which is exactly what he did. When he could not find a male military leader, he raised up a woman. Her name was Deborah. She was a wife, but she was a prophetess of the Lord. And she recruited Barak to come there and to work as her general. who would work under her command. And Barak was a fierce warrior, but he lacked courage. He wouldn't even go to war without Deborah. He's like, Mama, I won't go without you. And Deborah had to go with him at his request because of the cowardice. And so because the men were cowards, God raised up a woman. Very similar to 19-year-old Joan of Arc. When the men were afraid, a 19-year-old girl emerged from the ranks and charged and said, follow me. And she went after them. And her courage gave them courage. All God needs is one person that'll stand up with courage. And you bristle the spines of everybody who's around you. It's amazing. The name Deborah, this woman that became a judge of Israel and led them in many military conquests and victories, her name actually means bee, like a bumblebee. It means bee. And the name Yael actually means mountain goat. But what's the connection between Deborah as a bee and then Yael as a mountain goat? What do bees produce? Honey, honey. They produce honey. And what do goats produce? Milk. This is a picture of a promised land. Milk and honey. I'm going to bring you to a land flowing with milk and honey, Deborah and Yael. And listen, if you're going to come into a place of prosperity, a place of blessing, a place of peace, a promised land flowing with milk and honey, you got to have a Deborah and a Yael. Place flowing with milk and honey. So their names were actually prophetic of the assignment that God would have on their life to be able to bring blessing. And you thought that God could not use women? My God, who in the world ever thought that it was such? I'm just telling you, if the men go into cowardice, God will raise up a woman. If men and women would do it, he'll cause the rocks to cry out. He'll speak through a donkey. He will use what's available to him. I'm just grateful. I know that everybody gives credit to Moses for leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, out of slavery, out of bondage. But let me just tell you this. Talent needs a team to be terrific. I said talent needs a team to be terrific. And God raised up a team. It wasn't just Moses. It wasn't just Aaron. Guess what? It was their sister also. It was a family affair. It was a triple, it was what we call a trifecta. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. And so God used Moses, Aaron, and their sister Miriam. Miriam. Did I make that up? No. It's in the Bible. Micah chapter 6, verse 3 and 4. Notice, oh my people, what have I done to you? What have I done to make you tired of me? Answer me. Then notice what he says here. For I brought you out of Egypt, and I redeemed you from slavery. I sent Moses, Aaron, and Miriam to help you. Miriam was a prophetess. What did the prophetess Miriam do? Well, the first thing that she did is that she had to become a mother in her own instinct as a sister, an older sister to her baby brother. And she followed him when the mama put him in the basket and sent him down the Nile River. She followed from a distance to make sure that the child got in the right hands. She was an overseer over the prophetic promise of Moses, the deliverer. She followed him until he got into the Pharaoh's daughter's hand. Then she tricked the Pharaoh's daughter into paying her own mama to come there and nurse the child. She said, you know what? I heard that you got a baby. Oh, I'm so happy for you. And you know what? If you need someone to nurse the child for you, I know a lady who's recently had a baby, and you could probably use her. And Miriam goes and gets her own mother who had given birth to the child. And she paid her to feed the baby. God has a way, my God. You got something in you. God can make your enemies. Had they not had her, Miriam, had Miriam not been there, and Miriam led a song of victory. She took a tambourine, and all of the other women went following after her. She was a prophetess of the Lord and sang a song of victory in Exodus chapter 15. You go there and read the story. Home girl, give her props. God used her in a maternal way. And then you discover that Jesus was crucified on Golgotha's hill. I first visited Golgotha in 1980. It was so pronounced to me at that time. I've seen it since several times, and it wasn't as pronounced as when I saw it in 1980. But the eye sockets were very, very discernible, and the nose socket, it's Golgotha means the place of the skull. It's a head. It's a head. And the cross was placed in the head of the skull. It was a prophetic symbol that we are crushing the head of the enemy. It was the cross, the crucifixion that would happen there. Here is the seed of the woman crushing the head. It is a prophetic picture of it going in and stabbing and killing the head of the enemy, redeeming man from the fall, from the powers of the enemy, redeeming us out of that life. Now I want you to notice another place here in 2 Kings chapter 4 in verse 18 through 20. Notice he says that one day when her child was older, he went out to help his father who was working with the harvesters, and suddenly he cried out, "My head hurts, my head hurts." And his father said to one of the servants, "Carry him home to his mother." Here's a son who's with his daddy out there working, and he says, "I don't feel good. My head hurts." Little did the father know that the son was talking about him. My head hurts. He said, "I'm sick because my head is out of order. The head of the house is out of order." He said, "Hey, Daddy," he said, here was a problem, to take him to his mama. Take him to his mama. Why didn't Daddy have enough love and concern, enough empathy, enough understanding to be able, enough social intelligence, emotional intelligence to realize my son's got a serious issue here? I mean, a mother knows intuitively the difference between a baby's cry for food and one that cries to be changed. She knows that intuitively. And here, this man didn't have enough discernment in him to realize that his son was crying out because his head was out of order, his headship. And he said, "Oh, my head, my head." He said, "Send him back to his mama." He went home and sat. She laid him on the bed there, took him to his home, and his mother held him on her lap. But around noontime, he died. He died. He died. Let me just remind you of this, that ever since the beginning of time, there has been a war against the family. He let Adam and Eve go, but then he went after their children. He caused Cain to get jealous of his brother Abel, you know the story, and killed Abel. And isn't it something that when we've got the stuff that we have birthed dying prematurely, dying without a real cause, dying because a demonic thought that came in that should have been nailed, but it wasn't. It takes discerning folks to be able to discern when something demonic is coming. But I'm just here to tell you prophetically today that our families are in danger. The children are dying because everybody is concerned about their own agendas. And mama is out of place and daddy is out of place, and somebody's crying and saying, "Oh my God, we need redemption." The family is in trouble. Our children are in trouble. They're being raised by technology. I grew up in a day where your mama knew who your friends were. Before you married, they knew something about that family. Whose child is this? And they knew what influences. It's like, "Don't call my phone here at my house." They knew who was trying to call you. See, they were the filter. You don't dare. I mean, back in that day, you didn't call anybody's house after 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I mean, it's like a joke today. But they were 8 or 9. You don't call my house. And you were inside by the time the street lights came on. Some of y'all don't even know what that means. But that was that protective instinct that you don't look around as children in the darkness out here running. And how you going to be downtown and cutting a fool at Lennox? You better have your behind in that. If I catch you out of... That wasn't meanness, that was love in manifestation. That was mamas and daddies that said, "Hey, get in there, boy, come here. You were so busy with chores, cutting the grass, trimming the hedges, cleaning out the attic or the basement and bringing in some wood and moving. They gave you a job. Your behind was so worn out that at nighttime you had to get into bed. They got you up early in the morning. You were ready to go to bed. And I'm telling you, there's an enemy. That is an enemy. That is an enemy that's coming out, and he's out there. There's a spirit of Cain that is loose in the earth. It's loose in the earth, and it's going after your Abel. I hope you understand that Cain and Abel are nothing more than nicknames from your can't and your ability. And it is nothing but Cain trying to slay the able part of you. They always want to go after your good child. They're coming after your ability, telling you what you can't do. You can't do that. You need to drive a nail in it, because Cain is going to murder this thing. And I'm here to tell you, you're carriers. Every woman that is in the house today, you are a carrier. If you don't understand your purpose, you'll abuse it. You'll misuse it. You will neglect it if you don't understand it. But he designed you anatomically to catch and to carry and then to convey. I said to catch, to carry, and then to convey. Every woman is designed that whenever a man gives us something, if it's a seed, she takes it and becomes an incubation chamber where she multiplies that thing. The minute that she gets it into her body, it goes from a single cell, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 16, from 16 to 32, 32 to 64, 64 to 128, 128 to 256, 256 to 512, 512 to 1024. I'm telling you, she's designed to multiply whatever is given to her. You got an idea? You want to make it greater? Share it with your wife. Share it with her. Share it with her. She'll make it more than what it is. She'll say, baby, not only can we do this, we'll do this and that. She's designed to multiply it. She's an incubator. She's designed to carry it in gestation and multiply it and make it more than what it is. You catch it. Every woman is designed to catch. They're designed to carry, and then they're designed to produce something and convey it. Catch, carry, and convey. The assignment of the enemy is to get you to abort through frustration, to abort through narcissism, looking at yourself, thinking about yourself, and we begin to kill what we are carrying that we are designed to convey. You're supposed to take something and make it more than what you are. This is not about you, mama. This is about what comes through you. This is about what your womb of your creativity is able to produce. This is, I hope that you're hearing that God designed you. He designed you to carry some things and multiply it and then convey it into a form that is far beyond what you received it in. They can barely even recognize that you're designed. You're just built like that. You're built like that. You just got it like that. It's amazing. But here's the thing, is that so many women today are carrying responsibilities that God gave to men. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. I know you can open your own door and lift your own luggage and, wash your own car and fix everything that goes wrong around your house. I know you can do it. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I mean, you got to do it if nobody else is around to do it. I understand that. I understand. I get it. I get it. But it would be an injustice of me for things that were designed for my biceps and my triceps, my pectoralis majors, my trapezoids, my latissimus dorsi, if I then let my wife handle what God built in me through muscle mass. To carry. He gave her something that he didn't give me. Mammary glands is fatty tissue that delivers milk. I'm not designed like that. I'm a muscle mass. But we complement each other because muscle needs fat to insulate some things. Somebody sent me a meme this week, and it was a fat dude, and he said, I've never been injured, because he says you can't pull fat like you can pull a muscle. You say you can't pull fat. He had a great point. I had some chocolate after that. But it's a great travesty if I let my wife carry a weight that I'm designed to carry. I even do those who come after me a disservice if I carry for them what they're designed to carry, because their muscles will never develop. And if we start doing somebody else's assignment, it'll wear us out because we're not built for it. Over time, because you can do it today doesn't mean you can do it in a long time. And I have never seen on the face of the planet so many tired women who are worn out because they've had to do everything for themselves. Just tired, worn out. Cooking, they're cleaning, they're going to the jobs, they're getting the oil change in the car, and they're worn out because they have to do everything. Here's what Jesus said, Matthew chapter 11 and verse 28 through 30. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. Wouldn't that be nice? You will recover your life, and I will show you how to take a real rest. Jesus said, I'll show you how to take a real rest. He says, walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, and watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. And then notice he says, learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you will learn to live freely and lightly. This is Jesus. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do, and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. You enforce things, and that will wear you out if you don't have the grace for it. Things thrive and they prosper when every person is in their place carrying their part of the responsibility. That's victory. That's when you have real victory. I put it in an alliterative state with P's that says properly positioned people prevent problems, pursue possibilities, plus patiently prevail, portraying perseverance. I'd get a screenshot of that if I were you. But properly positioned people prevent problems. How many problems do you have because you got the wrong people in the wrong place doing the wrong thing at the wrong time? Properly positioned people prevent problems. Properly positioned people prevent problems on every job. I tell you, if you got an incompetence issue, it's because you got improper people in the wrong place. But properly positioned people prevent problems, pursue possibilities, plus patiently prevail, portraying perseverance. Properly positioned people prevent problem. Every person in their place, carrying their load. Properly positioned people prevent problems. And I've seen it when children are not in their proper position. They create a burden on their parents, still trying to pay for them because they've never learned to stand on their own two legs. And I know that there are situations and circumstances where people need periodic help until they can get back on their feet, but I'm talking about when this thing is cyclical. And every now and then, and you can't even retire in peace because you got to keep on working because you're enabling your child's incompetence. Properly placed, positioned people prevent problems, and they'll bless your life. It will bless your life like nobody's business. But there is a rest that will come when we will surrender and say, Lord, I want to come into your order. and do things the way that you want done. Yeah, I know if Daddy is out of place, if he's out of town, Mama's got to handle some things. But when he gets back, it's like, thank God that you're here. Go ahead and get this, handle this now. I can rest now. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. And learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Because you're designed to catch something and to carry it, to carry it, to carry it, to carry it. I've never seen a time now where we've had more miscarriages than any other time in history. Miscarriage. We are to catch it and carry it, carry it, carry it, carry it, and then convey it. You're on assignment. And this is a process of something that comes from God. I pray that you got something out of the word of the Lord today.
We hope that you enjoyed that message. Don't forget to like and subscribe and then press the notification bell so that you don't miss another one of our videos. And if you want to partner with us, click the Give Now button. Thank you for what you do.